Bach is the beginning and end of all music, the father of all harmony. We are all plodders compared to him. Not all musicians believe in God, but they all believe in Bach. A truly classical torture is how composers such as Max Reger, Beethoven, Tchaikovsky, Maurizio Kagel, and Schumann spoke of Johann Sebastian Bach. His contemporaries described him as self-assured and headstrong. In championing the demands of his art, he was undaunted by princes and civic dignitaries. His music was considered complicated and demanding, later even as old-fashioned and cluttered. But connoisseurs have never been in doubt. Bach was the greatest of his time, alongside Handel and Telemann, who both enjoyed his esteem. To this day, a performance of Bach's work remains a great artistic and intellectual challenge. Every era interprets Bach in its own and different way. To newly interpret the complete vocal works of Bach for our time. It was this goal that brought the musician Rudolf Lutz and the private banker Konrad Hummler together in 1999. Under their initiative, the Bach Foundation of St.Gallen was founded through private funding.
As my 50th birthday approached, I realized that the topic of Bach was simply not going to let me go. And I thought to myself, if one wants to do something, then the age of 50 is the right time. And that's how the idea of the Bach Foundation came into being.
Bach's legacy encompasses over 1,000 compositions. As a church musician, Bach produced over 220 cantatas, in addition to motets, chorales, passions, oratorios, and the Mass in B minor. Today, the cantatas are rarely heard in church services, and only a small selection of them has found its way into concert circles. How does the conductor Rudolf Lutz approach the enormous task of reviving their performance practice?
In my entire musical career, the Bach project is without a doubt the most difficult but also the most fulfilling endeavor that I have had the privilege of undertaking.
The purpose of the foundation is to foster cultural life in Eastern Switzerland by supporting organizations and individuals that strive to realize performances of Johann Sebastian Bach's works, and, in doing so, to bring the meaning of his musical craft closer to the public, in particular young people, in an educational way.
Bach hat das Rezeptionsproblem, weil im normalen Konzertbetrieb,
Bach has a reception problem because his works don't fit the format for standard Thursday and Friday subscription concerts. On one hand, today's performance practice is to blame. An authentic rendition of Bach is almost impossible to play on modern instruments. And many audiences no longer wish to hear Bach performed that way. As a result, a specialized period instrument orchestra is necessary. The other problem is that the cantatas are not suited to symphony concert programs. That's why Bach is so grossly underrepresented in today's concert life, apart from the oratorios and passions that of course have their own tradition. But the vast repertoire of vocal works that make up a substantial portion of Bach's work is performed far too little. That's why the Bach Foundation aims to give his vocal works their well-deserved place in concert practice.
Rudolf Lutz, the directing artist, is convinced. An analytical insight into Bach's work reveals his inventiveness and intensifies the musical experience.
A good introduction can bring details to light that may otherwise go unseen and unheard. In the cantatas, the theological content is extremely important. It is their very foundation.
Appreciation and listening should meld to form a whole concert experience. With this in mind, the Bach Foundation doesn't just aim to give an exemplary interpretation, but rather combines each performance with a live introduction and other elements.
Es ist effektiv ein Aufdecken
We want to effectively reveal content that the fleeting listener would otherwise miss. In this way, the project is also a project against superficial listening.
Ein Projekt gegen das flüchtige Zuhören, indem es ja über den Workshop
With an introduction via the workshop and the cantata being performed twice at each concert, the listener is almost forced to discover the music by peeling it back layer for layer. And the verbal section of the reflection ensures that the other side of the brain gets activated too.
Prior to each concert, the conductor Rudolf Lutz and the theologian Karl Graf present the chosen cantata's content and form, its meaning and substance. The audience is invited to contribute their thoughts and to sing along.
Es scheint also eine Lust da zu sein.
There seems to be a desire to present the content in such a way that it is not too obvious, so that the connoisseur says, "Ah, that's brilliant." He reveals it with exactly this word.
Für die Kantate Hörgenuss.
If we can incorporate the analytical, theological and musical observations in a way that transcends pure theory, then I believe that these elements can greatly enhance the audience's listening pleasure.
Dass sie nicht einfach stehen bleiben als reine Theorie.
Also vor allem wär's eben die Botschaft, dass
What is important to realize is that Johann Sebastian Bach is truly extraordinary in the way he imparts the biblical message.
hat ja mal einer gesagt,
It has been said that Bach was the fifth evangelist, which is perhaps a little exaggerated, but it speaks of the gift he had for communicating the message of the gospel in the language of music.
Das Schöne ist eben also
The best part of the project is collaborating with the musicians. We both make our contribution to the whole. I appreciate what I can learn from the musicians, and they appreciate my perspective as a theologian. It is a wonderful experience. Bach's work is so extraordinary. It is inexhaustible. One is never finished with it.
So etwas Geniales, da schöpft man nie aus, oder? Wird man nie fertig.
At each concert, one cantata is performed 2 times. A short commentary between the 2 hearings reflects on the cantata's text from today's perspective, to contradict, extend, and illuminate it. These reflections present a new background for the second performance.
Das Wichtigste wahrscheinlich, was es voraussetzt, ist, dass man
The important thing this demands is the ability to appreciate one's time beyond the perspective of the daily routine,
anderen Augen auch so sieht,
to see it with new eyes, not the professional eye.
sieht und dass man die Sensibilität
It is important to develop that kind of sensibility.
meines Erachtens kann das
In my experience, many people with an artistic and philosophical bent, people who cultivate interests, they can do that.
die in den künstlerischen, philosophischen Bereich hineingehen.
Kunst wurde gelenkt, beeinflusst, gesteuert und umgebogen.
Ein Zehntel der Bachschen Werke gedruckt oder gestochen.
Und keine Menschenhand wird es je öffnen.
Bitte im Menschen selber ab.
Das ist ein spezieller Zusammenhang, wo das hier in
It is a special constellation that takes place here in Trogen. The fact that the same cantata is heard twice, that the reflection has its own place in the middle, that the introduction to the text and music has been given in advance. This enables the reflection to become very personal. For me, it takes the place of a sermon, and the cantatas were composed around the sermon. But at the same time, the reflection should not instruct or preach, but in fitting with our times, reflect on a key word or motif. Often the key word or thought has more to do with the world of the speaker rather than with the original cantata text, and that is the way it is intended.
The reflections are also printed in a book that forms a cantata anthology of the 21st century. It is available either separately or together with the video recordings of the concerts. These give the Bach Foundation project a legacy that lives beyond the moment of the concert.
Was uns denn schlussendlich fasziniert,
What fascinated us so much is that a live recording has a certain directness that is almost never realized in a studio recording.
hergebracht werden.
Indeed, I have great hope that the live feeling will open a completely new dimension for listeners.